One big team. One big team. One big team.
Hello, welcome to episode 76 of Riot Act, the alternative music podcast, with me, Stephen Hill, and this gentleman, Renfrey Deadman.
Hello.
Renfrey, I let you pick the vinyl this week. If you're on our YouTube channel, Renfrey picked his 3 favourite records to go up on the back wall there.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who aren't on our YouTube channel, it is. Let me just see what they are. It's The Wrong Side of Heaven and the Righteous Side of Hell, Volume 1 and 2, actually, if you turn it over, by Five Finger Death Punch. Got Your Six by Five Finger Death Punch, and Justice for None by Five Finger Death Punch. So you've gone for a Five Finger Death Punch.
You say I have. I mean, these are technically your vinyls, aren't they?
Oh, yes,
Steve?
they are, actually. It was a joke, everyone.
Hey.
Also got Renfrey a new mug. Show everyone your mug, Renfrey.
Yes, this
it's
is a
Motley Crue mug.
Mug from, is it the Dirt film?
It's the Dirt film,
it's the soundtrack,
The
actually.
soundtrack to the Dirt, the film.
So I'm very excited about that. Unfortunately, your Faith No More mug broke.
I know, I broke my Faith No More mug, which just leaves us with Kiss and Motley Crue. It's not the best.
2 of our favourite bands.
Yes, I got some Five Finger Death Punch vinyl.
Lucky you. Why are you allowed to talk about why you got that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
I'm reviewing the new Five Finger Death Punch record from Metal Hammer magazine.
Of all the people in the world, they thought Stephen Hill's our man for the job for
I've
that.
done it. I've reviewed a couple of their records before, actually.
Oh, yeah,
Five
you
Finger
have,
Death
haven't you?
Punch,
Yeah.
So I went over to listen to it. I think I'm not the first person to have heard it. Not
Yes.
really sure I'm allowed to say that, but...
Well, do you mean...
I'm not going to talk about the actual record itself. I mean, I don't think we're going to review the record itself, to be perfectly honest, Renfrey.
Should we review the record? I don't know. Give us a
I
shout.
don't think we should. But they gave me some Five Finger Death Punch vinyl while I was there.
Do you know what I will say?
So shout out Dan at their management company. He's a really nice dude.
Possibly the only time I'll compliment this band. They have lovely covers, don't they?
Striking imagery.
Very striking imagery.
Yeah.
That really stands out amongst Megadeth albums and all that. Anyway.
So there you go. Five Finger Death Punch got a new album coming out.
If anyone would like my views on Five Finger Death Punch, and I am particularly proud of the 2 out of 5 Five Finger Death Punch review I gave them when they flew me over to Germany to see them for the Independent.
Absolute waste of money on their part.
Absolute waste of money on their part. They probably spent £500 or £600 on me, I reckon, in 24 hours. And nope, 2 stars. So if you just Google Independent Five Finger Death Punch, I'm sure it'll come up.
Deadman, your band, Megadeth, Five Finger Death Punch at Wembley. You won't be there. Your band.
Doesn't sound like I will be, no, but that's fine.
I'm going to go to that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you want to do Musicism, Sting?
Yes, so this is what I was about to do. Musicism.net are our good friends, who I'm sure you know by now, make online tutorials for budding singers, songwriters, and producers.
They're in NAM this week, just to make this a little bit different.
Like Apocalypse Now?
No. NAM, no, not Viet. NAM as in the trade show thing in America. It's a really big deal, really.
Like Platoon?
Sure. Yes, it's Vietnam. They're in Vietnam. Yeah.
Shall I?
Yep, carry on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it different.
All right, no, that's fine. Oh, no, mate, and it has been.
No, you've done a very good job considering we've done, 76 of these?
Yeah.
You didn't say what episode title it was either.
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. You've got a piece of glitter on your face, which is really distracting me.
I haven't.
You do. You definitely have.
I don't know how that's got there. Anyway, it's $9.99 a month, musicism.net. Riot in capitals in the checkout. You get 25% off. Let's talk about this glitter. Where is it?
It's on your right cheek.
Gone?
Oh, I think it's gone now.
Okay, cool.
I'll let you know.
Have you had a good week, Renfrey?
Yeah, I've had a pretty decent week.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's been
Better
all
than
right.
mine?
Well, no, you listened to the Five Finger Death Punch.
Well,
so.
I've had a
You've had a bit of a tough week, actually. Yeah.
I'd say, okay, if you think I'm sitting weird, if you are watching on a YouTube channel, or if I just feel like I wince at any point, I've got 2 blown out discs in my back, which I pulled at the gym the other day. Not in a cool deadlifting way, but
or in a sort of pulling a sexy lady.
Yeah, but I put my leg in my shorts wrong and fell over, and now I'm in fucking agony. And poor Bonjour, if you're worried, like thinking maybe Bonjour will pop up as well at some point. She might not today because she's not eaten she hadn't eaten for like 5 days, and I was really worried about her.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to have to get put down, which would have been...
It's almost as if someone poisoned her.
I mean, fuck me. I wouldn't even joke about that if I were you, Renfrey, because I honestly said to the vet, if you put her down, there's an overpass going to my house. I was like, I'm just jumping off of it.
Okay.
Yeah. because I don't want to be alive in a world without bonjour.
Ooh. Okay.
So
there's
you
an
best hope she starts eating again. is
There's
what
an
I'm saying.
inevitability about.
No, well, there is, but I don't have to be here for it. Fuck it. Anyway, on this week's show, we're going to be reviewing new albums from And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead, Poppy, Gargantua, and Pressure Cracks EP.
Well done with Gargantua. That was very good.
Thank you very much. Before we go any further, do you want to do the serious bit? Or I think we'll say the serious bit. No, yeah, congratulations to Bring Me the Horizon. We kind of had a bit of a pop at Bring Me the Horizon last week.
Just a bit.
Yeah, just a bit. I mean, I think deservedly so. But they've been nominated. This is mental when you think where Bring Me the Horizon have come from. For Best Band at the Brits.
Mm-hmm. You'll be there?
I will be there, yeah. Nominated along Foals, Bastille, Coldplay. That's insane.
It's far more indie than I expected it. I always think of the Brits as very poppity pop.
Yeah, but it's Best Band, isn't it? Best Band. I mean, what... when you look at the list of nominations and you see, you know, it's obviously Stormzy and
Right.
Ed Sheeran and Dave and that kind of thing.
I mean, I don't pay attention to it.
dominating it.
Right, okay. Yeah. I think even back in 1996, I remember staying up late because ITV showed the uncut Brits from, I believe, 1996, where Jarvis Cocker got on stage during
Yeah.
Michael Jackson's
Yeah.
performance. And they made out that it was really salacious, and it was on really, I think it was on at like 1 o'clock in the morning, because it was like, if you see this, you
Well,
will
that
be...
was the controversial year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
With
but
Michael
like...
Jackson and what Oasis did, and
What did Oasis do? Oh, they just swore, didn't they?
just swore loads. Yeah,
Rubbish. But yeah, all Jarvis Cocker did was he got up on stage and then he just sort of
Flapped
lifted
his
his
bottom,
shirt. Yeah. That was about it. Anyway.
still probably going to be better than what you'll get this year.
Yes,
would
I imagine it will be.
But
yes.
yeah, quite like Dave to win Best Album. But it's interesting. I mean, the thing that's kind of popped up from this nominations is the lack of nominees in kind of in the non-gender specific categories. I think Mabel, who's a pop star, who's Nana Cherry's daughter, actually, is the only female nominee in any of the kind of non-gender specific categories.
Oh, really?
And I was reading something which I thought was quite interesting. It says quite a lot about the Brits. I mean, other people have written more stuff about this, which I feel is probably more interesting and more passionately put. But one thing that I did think sort of sums up how cretinous the Brits are. Little Sims, who I saw at the Mercury Music Prize, who was fantastic and whose album is great, was not eligible for Best Album at the Brits because her album didn't crack the top 40, the UK album top 40. And that is an absolutely absurd.
I don't care. Why do we
Set
talk
of-
about it? Why do we talk about it? I don't
Don't
care.
know. Here's something else we probably shouldn't talk about while we're on annoying things. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees got announced as well. The Doobie Brothers, Whitney Houston, Depeche Mode, T-Rex, Nine Inch Nails, Notorious B.I.G. No room for Soundgarden, no room for Motorhead again, no room for Judas Priest again, no room for the MC5, amongst others.
We thought Soundgarden would be a shoe.
I thought Soundgarden would be a shoe, and no Radiohead.
Yeah, that's mad, isn't it?
I mean, America, innit? The Doobie Brothers. I don't.
Yeah. I don't know. That is just a big shrug from me. I mean, Nine Inch Nails, great, brilliant.
Yeah, it seems Notorious B.I.G. as well. As much as he is like absolutely brilliant and essential in hip hop quarters, to be putting him in kind of first time round, like first go. That seems a bit odd, I think, when you consider a lot of the people that haven't gone in.
How long was he doing stuff for as well, Notorious
long
B.I.G.?
at all.
Yeah. Like, he had a very short career, didn't
But
he?
it's just because of how kind of influential and significant he was.
Yeah, okay.
I think I think that's probably why he's going in there, because of the influence and impact he had on hip hop as a whole.
Well, you could argue the same in Nirvana, I suppose.
Yeah, of course you could. Yeah, I think but I mean, what I will say is brilliant to see Nine Inch Nails and Depeche Mode going in.
Yep.
Happy with that.
Yep.
But overall, don't care.
Yep. Although it'd
Yeah.
be nice to see, I'd like to see what Trent Reznor does, because they have to do a performance.
Yeah,
thing,
they
don't
do. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I'd be
that
happy with
would be really, really good. The big news really this week, I guess, Sadly, again, we do a lot of these, don't we?
Well, celebrities. Well, celebrity culture became a thing in the 50s, and a lot of them are passing away now.
Yeah.
So.
Neil Peart died on the 7th of January after a long battle with glioblastoma, which is a type of brain cancer, 3.5 years after he was diagnosed with it. Obviously, you only have to look at the type of people that have come out and talked about Neil Peart and his influence and how great a drummer he was. Not just one of the sort of best, most influential drummers ever, but one of the most creative minds in early hard rock and rock music, I think. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I am an absolutely avid Rush fan, but I think when you go back and listen to, a song like Working Man from the first Rush album from 1974 feels really, really different from so much of what American hard rock was at that time. I think I said it when we did our albums of the decade, I'm kind of more partial to the early 80s, Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, that stuff I think is great. But then also I've got 2112, and 2112 is the big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's massively impressive. And what I didn't realise is Neil Peart actually wrote the lyrics, kind of come up with the story for all that as well. So, an unbelievably talented human being.
Yeah, I am. I'm quite a big Rush fan, actually. Yeah, I'd say so. It took me a while to get into them. I found Geddy Lee's unique vocal style a bit of a hindrance at first, but once I sort of got over his odd vocals, I really, really started to appreciate them. Maybe, I don't know, it's probably only about 10 years ago, but I think they are a phenomenal class act who did most things in the prog rock realm first. Not all, but most. And just the sheer kind of, they had a sheer sort of, not arrogance, but just they would not deviate from what they wanted to do. They were not afraid to go out there and do 3-hour shows and do album shows, and they just did things their way the whole time. And I think Neil Peart had a lot to do with that. And obviously, in terms of influencing other drummers, I mean, any drummer who is vaguely showy at all, I think Neil Peart probably had an influence on. If you ever saw his kit, it usually had a insane amount of a ridiculous amount of drums and so on and so forth. It was just absurd, but absurdly talented drummer who will be sadly missed.
And when you read back to I was reading up on him and his life and everything, and you read stuff about his daughter and his wife in the late 90s both passed away within kind of 2 years of each other, and he took a sabbatical and went and just took a motorbike and went across America on a motorbike, and has written a book, wrote a book and wrote a diary of it, and which was released as well. And I think what you said about Rush just did what they did and they didn't care about anything. I mean, being a Canadian band and a Canadian kind of hard rock band in the early 70s. I mean, now when we talk about, we did a whole show where we talked about different brilliant Canadian bands, but I don't know that I can think of any sizable bands from that part of the world before Rush came along. I'm sure there are some.
Off the top of my head, I can't. No,
Yeah.
not the sort.
Certainly, that would be one of the biggest.
Yeah, they in a lot of ways
the
actually they remind me of Pearl Jam in the sense that their fans are absolutely cast iron passionate, and they used to just announce a couple of nights at the O2 or whatever, and they'd sell out like that, and Pearl Jam will do that as well. And there'll be a lot of people who are like, oh, but they only released one good album, and it's like, well, no. And I think Rush are a bit like that as well. I think people go to 2112 and just like, oh, that's the one. But I mean, for me, like Hemispheres, A Farewell to Kings, Clockwork Angels, which was quite a latter one, was really good.
Clockwork Angels was recently voted the best album of the last decade by the readers of Classic Rock magazine.
Was it?
I wouldn't take their opinion too much to heart, to be fair.
It is a good record, though.
Yeah.
It is a good record.
It was obviously going to be one of those types of bands. So, just goes to show that they were still managing to do it. I mean, I think I did hear that record once when it first came out, but I genuinely, I don't have an opinion on it either way. But
I think Rush are one of those bands who their later work, they were doing really good stuff towards the end as well. I think Clockwork Angels is probably the last one listened to. Was it the last one?
It is the last one, yeah.
Yeah. But it's a very good album. It's a very good album.
So anyway, Neil Peart, another member of the kind of rock and roll aristocracy, has passed away, and that is a very, very sad thing. So, all right, then let's do some reviews, I guess, shall we?
Yes.
Let's start with And You Will Know Us by The Trail of Dead. This is an album called X, or 10, I guess.
10,
The Godless Void and Other Stories. As you'd expect, it is the 10th album from the Texan Quartet, who, in my humble opinion, Remfrey, are one of the best bands of the 21st century.
I agree with you.
Noughties, particularly, the run of albums they put out in the noughties, Madonna, Source Tags and Codes, Worlds Apart, So Divided, Century of Self, is an absolutely stunning run.
Oh, you're not including Tale of the Dead there?
I didn't really get much of a listen to Tale of the Dead, to be honest.
Okay.
So I'm not going to include it just because I did dip off of Trail of Dead around that time for whatever reason. In fact, I didn't even realise the ninth one had come out, I don't think. I think if I did, it came out at a time where I was being bullied into listening to fucking water parks or something. So I never got around to listening to it.
Well, it came out 6 years ago because this is their first album in 6 years.
Yes, okay.
So, yeah.
But a great band.
Yeah, and a band that we haven't really talked about all
No.
that much on the show for
No,
some
we
reason. Well, I
haven't.
guess they've not been doing anything for.
No, they're one of
6
those.
years,
But they are one of those bands that I don't feel like I ever really mention very much.
No,
but
yeah.
that I love.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I've got a Trail of Dead tattoo on my arm right now.
And yesterday?
Forever, probably, presumably. Unless my arm gets chopped off. And
Could happen.
it could happen. But what I love about Trail of Dead is, and this is where I think we should start this review, what are And You Will Know Us by Trail of Dead? What are they? Post-hardcore, grunge, garage rock, indie, post-rock, punk rock? What are Trail of Dead?
I don't think you can put them into a genre beyond alternative rock, which is ridiculously broad. I would say that there are different Trail of Dead type records. Very early on, they were a very noisy outfit, like very noise rock and very experimental.
Well, we can kind of go through, because what I feel that Trail of Dead have, whatever type of song they're doing, and there are a few different types of songs that they do, they have such a uniquely a sound that is so unique and specific to them.
It always sounds like Trail of Dead.
That no matter what they do, and I think you can go back and, like Madonna, like you quite rightly said, is a very noisy punk record.
Yeah.
Source Tags and Codes felt much more like a more kind of cohesive, focused version of that.
Yeah.
I think Worlds Apart is the widest in scope of everything they've done.
Yep,
I
my
think So
favourite.
Divided is probably the slowest and maybe the most expansive record they've done. Century,
Definitely haven't heard Tale of the Dead.
Okay,
But
fair
yeah.
enough. And Century Yourself is, I don't know, it's been a while since I've listened to that one, to be fair, but I do remember thinking this is great. And probably, Century, wow, go on, what would you say, Century Yourself? Because I feel like that's different as well.
Century Yourself is far more song-based, isn't it? Because they sometimes have sort of proggier leanings. I mean, I would say that one facet of Trail of Dead, which I would probably apply to Worlds Apart, Tale of the Dead, and this album as well, is they have a sort of psychedelic latter-day Beatles feel to them, albeit much, much heavier.
I always compare them to the Beatles.
Yes.
To me, they are the closest thing to the Beatles that has happened since the Beatles. And I mean that in a lot of people go,
Oasis?
well, okay, but the thing is, when Oasis came out, everyone went, "Oh yeah, that. I know what that
Well,
sounds
Noel
like.
Gallagher went like that.
I know. Well, I know what that sounds like. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
well, no, everybody went.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
what
yeah.
this is. These are these songs. I've heard all of this stuff before, right? What the Beatles did with those last sort of 5 or 6 records. No one had ever done that before. No one had ever tried recording music like that before. No one had ever attempted to make songs in that manner before. It just didn't really exist, particularly within the framework of essentially guitar pop, which is what the Beatles initially were, and then morphed into, like you say, this kind of weird psychedelic rock band with all these mad, creative, crazy ideas.
Yeah.
Trail of Dead are those crazy, mad, psychedelic, unheard ideas, fast forwarded 40 years.
Yeah, given a beefier sound and often filtered through a proggy kind of conceptual thing as well.
Yeah.
Not always, but often, I would say.
Often,
Tale
yeah.
of the Dead, definitely. Maybe Worlds Apart.
I think Worlds Apart, yeah, definitely. But,
and I think this record, definitely this record as well.
yeah, I mean, they are a very, very difficult band to categorize.
Yeah, they are.
Incredibly difficult, because all that stuff about when you talk about prog and psychedelica and that sort of thing, you don't expect a band to be as punky and as raging and as straightforward as Trail of the Dead often are.
They can be, yeah.
I mean,
can be.
even on this record, there are moments where it's heavy. I mean, probably never as heavy as Madonna or the kind of the heavier stuff from Source Tags and Codes, but they are a heavy band. Like, I don't want people who haven't heard them to go, who are into punk or whatever, to go, that doesn't really sound like the sort of thing that I want to listen to.
Yeah,
because
they're not an indie band. They're a rock
because I
band.
think
They're
whatever
definitely a rock
you
band.
like, I think you should get something from Trail of Dead.
I agree. And quite interestingly, actually, something that we haven't mentioned, Source Tag and Codes, Source Tags and Codes, that is the name of it, isn't it? Their third album is one of, I think, only 3 albums to receive a perfect 10 score on Pitchfork.
Really?
Which probably says more about Pitchfork than it does about the record.
yeah.
Not that it isn't an excellent album, because it is an excellent album. Although, let's bear in mind that Pitchfork are the people who gave, Lateralus 1.9 out of 10, and Francis the Mute 2.0 or something like that. But it is an excellent record, and I think that says quite a lot about it and the band.
I think that's probably considered their classic album at this point. It's
I saw them play it in full in Dingwalls. I reviewed it for Team Rock, actually.
Did you?
Yeah, this was like 5-6 years ago.
Okay, yeah. See, I, for whatever reason, just sort of missed out on a bunch of Trail of Dead goodness.
I think if you stopped around Tale of the Dead, you really have.
Yeah,
Because
I
Tale of the
did.
Dead, I would say, is my second favourite Trail of the Dead album.
Is it?
After Worlds Apart.
Wow. Wow.
9, it's fucking amazing.
Okay.
Tale of the Dead. 9 is really, really good. I never really got into Lost Songs, but I wouldn't say it's a bad album. I think that's another thing. I have Trail of Dead albums that I absolutely adore. Trail of Dead albums which I think are good, and I have Trail of Dead albums which I can respect, but I don't tend to listen to. For example, I don't tend to listen to their debut very much at all.
No, their debut is the one that I probably wouldn't ever really go to. I mean, Century Itself, in my head, I think is great, but I couldn't tell you the last time I listened to
exactly.
it. Whereas that run of, from Madonna to So Divided, that is 4 records that back to back I absolutely love.
But what I will say about them is even when they produce stuff that I'm personally not a fan of, that it's always interesting.
Oh, always.
Always interesting.
I mean, if the preamble hasn't been enough, they're a brilliant band, and it feels a shame that we have to go and point this out in such, to go so like, this is a great band. Do you know what I mean? Because it should, to me, it should just be taken as read. Like, if you reviewed Queens of Stone Age, you wouldn't be sitting here going, "Hey, Rated R is a really great album.
Yeah.
You should really check this." But like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, there's not a massive difference. In fact, I'd prefer Trail of Dead to Queens of Stone Age in terms of their career.
I'd certainly think Trail of Dead. Not only have they had more records than Queens of the Stone Age, but they've probably been more consistent as well. usually when we do a big preamble about how amazing a band are, it's usually to offset that with it's a shame that this record isn't very good.
It's funny that, isn't it? I don't.
But that's not going to be the case here.
No. No.
Because this album is fucking amazing.
Here it is, the first great records of the decade, Renfrew.
Oh, yes. Oh, I really like that Beach Slang album. I'm still playing that a lot.
Oh, mate, me too. I mean, there were some very, very good records last week.
Yeah.
But for me, this is the first great record.
I think
the first essential records.
It's ridiculous to compare the two, but yes, I do think this is probably better than the Beach Slang record. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't even really meant as a comparison.
Yeah.
I just was thinking, this is, if someone said to me, should I listen to that Beach Slang record? I'd probably go, yeah, I think you might probably like it. Yeah, you could, depending on what you like, you should probably check it out. This, I think you have to listen to this.
Yeah, it's fucking
brilliant. You have to listen to it and go, oh my God, they've got 10 albums. And then go back and go, wow, like why has the world stopped talking about this band?
Yep.
Because they were pretty fucking hyped back in, 2002, 2003? Source Tags and Codes, when it came out. It was Cover Kerrang!
It was the Madonna and Source Tags and Codes era, wasn't it? Yeah. And strangely, they then released Worlds Apart, which I do. Is Worlds Apart your favourite as well?
It's got my favourite songs on it. So Divided and Worlds Apart, I've got my favourite individual Trailer Dead songs on it.
What's your favourite as a whole?
So the title track from So Divided might be my favourite.
Ooh.
But,
I was actually asking album, but...
probably Source Tags and Codes, to be honest.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant album. But yeah, funnily enough, I mean, I when they released... I think it's just that thing of great band releases another great record. There isn't like a story there, There isn't much of a story here for this album. I mean, bar the fact that it's the band's 25th anniversary and Conrad Keeley is one of two vocalists from the band. He moved away to Cambodia for about 5 years, which is why the band have been inactive for the past 5-6 years. And this is about him moving back to Texas, this record primarily. But bar that, there isn't much of a quote-unquote story around this record. It's just a great record.
Yeah. They do things which, again, so just sound like Trail of Death. I mean, the thing is, they're very, very hard to describe in a review, because if you know what And You're Nursed by Trail of Dead sound like, you probably have a vague idea of what this record's going to sound like, because much like Tool sound like Tool, and no one else really sounds like Tool. Trail of Dead sound like Trail of Dead, and no one else really sounds like Trail of Dead. And they have, 4 or 5 tricks in their arsenal that they are very good at, that they fuck around with. Like the title track of this is a rager. It's one of those kind of full throttle, wailing punk songs. And then a song like Don't Look Down is incredibly soft and emotive, and it builds to this amazing crescendo. They do this thing where they take apart and I tell you, the only other band I can think of off the top of my head who do this as well as Trailer Dead, and bearing in mind, I think I've gone on record how much I like this band, it's Typo Negative, right? Typo Negative will play a riff, or there'll be a part, they'll do 4 bars of it, you'll never hear it again.
Yes,
And Trailer Dead do this all the fucking time. They'll play a bit of you'll see a song that's 7 minutes long. The first minute you'll go, oh my God, this is absolutely incredible. And then it will change, and that incredible bit will never come back. Yeah.
They're also, the way that they, there's not loads of it on this record, maybe on the second half of the record more so, but the manner in which they put songs together is just absolutely sublime. Rather than having verse, chorus, they'll maybe do chorus, then a verse, which is like 4 minutes of the song, and then end with a chorus. And that could be a Trail of Dead song. And they really fuck around with so-called traditional song structures and all that kind of thing.
And with instruments as well. I mean, you never know who's front in the band.
Yes.
You never know. What we should say is everyone in the band, you go and see them live, and you don't you'll have a bass player who will be singing, and then he'll get on the drum kit, and then you'll have a guitarist who'll swap to the keys, and you just... They're absolutely. This is again what I mean about the Beatles, is the Beatles, you never kind of really knew how that happened or what was going on.
Yeah.
Was this, you're like, right, who's singing this one? Who's
Yeah.
playing drums on this track? Like when I go and see this live, is the guy who's just been sitting there playing the piano and singing this song gonna suddenly get up and start playing the drum kit, and the drums are going to come around and they're going to swap places?
Exactly.
Like you just do not know. And I can't think of another band who have that approach where there is no guitar, like he's the guitarist in the band, he's the singer of the band. I can't think of another band who do that.
No, I mean, it definitely feels like Conrad and Jason's band.
Yes,
I would say.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But they do swap quite a bit. I think there's more Conrad on this record than Jason, but Jason definitely puts a stamp on it. I mean, he does vocals on the title track, doesn't he?
Yes.
And you know, I mean, but he's
more of the kind of screechy voice.
He's the punkier one, yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the stuff that Trail of Dead do, I mean, the first song proper, All Who Wander, is an amazing opener, and they do this thing where the band suddenly get very, very quiet, and they're still playing, but they're just playing very, very quietly, which, ask any rock band, that is one of the hardest things you can do, playing quietly, and then gradually get louder again and all this sort of thing, which is something which I listen to that and I think I can't wait to see that live, which will probably happen in March because they're coming over in March. Yeah, I started listing songs which were highlights on this album and stopped after track 5 because I realised I was just naming every single song.
Yeah.
I just love this record. It's so good. I've been listening to it fairly constantly for about a month now, and it already feels like a record that's been in my collection for years and years and years. The melodies are so familiar and instant to me.
Is that thing, man?
Well, I think this is another thing that Trail of Dead do brilliantly. They are really instant, and yet at the same time, there's loads going in on their songs.
That's the trick. That is the hardest trick to pull off,
and they are extraordinary at that.
Like, I mean, there's not, there's keys and strings and little bits, touches of electronics, and huge swaths and walls of guitars, and you can tell that this has been put together by, it feels like about 400 people would be in the band. Do you know what I mean? Like you look at you look at the track listing, you look at the like personnel on something like Chinese Democracy, and you see, they've got 19 guitarists playing, and you go, well, I can't hear any. If that was Trail of Dead, you go, yeah, that makes sense. Right, and you think, well, there's only 4 of them in the band, but then actually live there is. I mean, I've seen them before. They've had sort of 6 or 7 people on stage.
They had 6 or 7 for a brief period of time, but recently they have been going back to a 4-piece
really
live.
So that's mad. I mean, I just don't know how they're gonna. I mean, some of those songs seem impossible to pull off.
Yeah.
Like,
they'll do it though, because
sure
they're a great
will.
live band as well. They're fantastic.
Band,
I was trying to think of a negative for this album, and I thought really, really hard, and I couldn't think of one. Then I read some other reviews who have been fairly ho-hum about it.
Well, this is the thing. The last few do seem to have been sort of fairly negatively received, and I don't know if it's just because people have gone, oh, I remember that band, and they were cool for a minute, and now they're not, so whatever. They're just doing the same thing.
I think it's lazy journalism, and they go, oh, there's no story behind this, so I'll just be like, yeah, whatever. I'll listen to it once. I'll be like, yeah, it's all right. Personally, that's what I think. I mean, the one criticism that came up, which I was like, yeah, I can kind of see what you mean. There were a couple of reviews which said that this album's a little bit repetitive, and compared to, say, Worlds Apart, yeah, I guess it is. But for me,
I mean, repetitive in comparison to. I mean, you've said it yourself.
yeah. I'm saying all of this with a stress on. I tried very hard to find a negative. I really love this record. I think you could argue it's a bit repetitive, but the album's 50 minutes long. It keeps my attention the entire way through because there's so much going on. The melodies are just wonderful and so infectious. And I
don't think it's repetitive. I think that's bollocks. think that's absolute. Like when you think of like 80-90% of rock albums released at the moment, you're telling me this one's the repetitive one, right? Yeah, okay.
I think, you know how you were saying that there are Trail of Dead tricks that they reuse and do again and again. I think they do, as you say, they have 5 or 6 tricks and they reuse them and they do them over and over again. To be honest, most bands do that, and actually most bands only have 1 or 2 tricks.
I was going to say there's 12 tracks on it. If they've got 6 tricks and they use each of them twice,
exactly,
that ain't repetitive.
Yeah, exactly. But you know,
I mean, it's repetitive in. I mean, how much do you love this band? Is the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, how much do you love this band? If you don't really love them, this is not their best record.
No.
Like, we're both sitting here going, "Oh, it's so great." It's not their best record, but it's a very, very, very good Trail of Dead record. It's a very good record, like full stop.
I do think it's quite high on my Trail of Deads.
You know, I think it's good. I mean, having only had it for a week, am I going to put it above Source Tags and Codes and Worlds Apart and Madonna and So Divide? Like, I can't do that at the moment. But the fact that every time I hear Trail of Dead, I just go, yeah, that's as good as Trail of Dead always are. And yes, it's not. I mean, I do remember hearing Worlds Apart and being like, fucking hell, this is not what they were 2 albums ago or even 1 album ago.
No,
Like, so that is, but you can't really expect a band, especially a band who have done so much, to continue to do that 10 albums down the line. 10 albums down the line feels like a very, very unfair thing to be judging a band who have done so much to just go, oh, what, you run out of ideas after 10 albums, have you?
Yeah.
It's like, fucking hell, most bands run out of ideas afafter half an album.
To be clear, I'm not saying they've run out of ideas.
No, I know
all.
you're not. I'm just saying this idea
not.
that it's repetitive for them. I mean, I get what you're saying, but they're such good songwriters and they're just such a fucking great band.
I'm merely mentioning it just to bring some balance to the review.
That's fine.
But at the end of the day, I think it's fucking excellent, and I think that's like we bring in way more. I mean, to say this is repetitive when we did that Bring Me the Horizon EP last week is an absolute joke. Yeah. You know, I would go as far as to say I think this is my 4th favorite Trail of Dead record.
Go on. 3, 2, 1.
Worlds Apart, Tale of the Dead, Source Tags and Codes. I don't know why I keep struggling over that title.
Better than Madonna, wow.
You're gonna hate me for this. Not the first 2 records, the noisy side of Trail of Dead. I love it live, but I don't tend to listen to it on record very much. So Madonna would be lowish for me.
Okay.
Even though I appreciate that Madonna is the record that first sort of put them on the map.
It's got some amazing, like Totally Natural.
Yeah.
Totally Natural.
Age Dolls. Is Age Dolls on that one? Yeah, I mean, Age Dolls is always a highlight live. But as an album, I just don't listen to it very much. I always enjoy when they play stuff from it. But yeah, and to, you know, for a band's 10th record to be that high up is pretty impressive, I think.
It is, yeah. That's very impressive. Yeah, I don't know where I'd put it at the moment. But what I will say is, having not heard 9,
9's good.
Yeah, and having briefly listened to Tower of the Dead and just being like, 2011, I suppose I was just starting to do the Metal Hammer podcast at that point, and everything got very metal for me. So they probably suffered from that a little bit.
Tale of the Dead is just an incredible,
will absolutely go back to that.
Grand.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, the way that they wanted to release it as 2 tracks, and the record label wouldn't let them in the end. So there's a double disc version which has the album split into several tracks and then sort of the 2-track version. But the 2-track version is the one. It's fucking brilliant. Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, yeah, I'll absolutely have to go into that because this has just made me remember how much I fucking love this band.
I have to say, I have revisited half of their back catalogue since receiving this album. I received it just before Christmas, and I've been listening to Trail of Dead loads.
So great. We probably shouldn't talk too much about the rest of their back catalogue because we might be talking about it another time. But I will just say, if you are listening, Worlds Apart, possibly the best opening 8 minutes of any record ever.
Oh, yes. Yes.
That might be my favourite. I mean, that's what the Will You Smile Again is, what my tattoos.
Will You Smile Again is the song I was referencing when I said chorus. a verse which lasts about 4 minutes and then chorus. That's
Yeah.
basically the song structure for that song.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Even with a name like Ode to Isis, like the first track.
Yeah.
It's not aged that well, but the music has. Anyway, that is the brand new record from And You Will Know Us by the Trail of Dead. It's called 10, The Godless Void and Other Stories. If you haven't heard this band ever, you must listen to this new record.
This isn't
It's a
bad.
really good place to start.
I was about to say it's not a bad entry point at all.
Yeah.
Not a bad
And then
one.
if you like it, and I'm sure you will, then you have got some really, really incredible albums to go and dissect and get inside.
I think we're
after
both
that.
agreed on Worlds Apart and Source Tags and Codes, aren't we?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think So Divided is.
I love So Divided, actually. It's very, very good.
record.
Yeah, fuck it.
So
Let's chuck
great.
that in as well.
Yeah. Brilliant band, and a very, very good album. As I said, the best, the first brilliant record of the decade for me.
Yeah, fair.
Wow,
I'm happy with
I've
that.
heard a couple of really good albums,
Ooh.
but that's the first one that's come out that I really love. I think. Let's move on to our next record, which comes from Poppy. It's called I Disagree. This is the third album from the YouTuber turned solo artist. A record described by her as having no genre. She's got on the cover of Kerrang! Over the last few weeks. We didn't cover it last week. This actually came out last week, and it wasn't really particularly on my radar, I have to say.
Can I fill this?
Yeah,
one in?
yeah,
'Cause-
sure.
Okay, so this was on my radar, and I was aware of it. And I basically chose to not even bring it to Steve, because my view was Poppy is not really a Riot Act artist in the sense that she is a pop star. However, on this particular record, her third, as you said,
Out on Sumerian, we should point out. Just
Out
to
on
give it a little
Sumerian,
bit of,
yep.
Where we're going.
Yep. On this particular record, she has taken a metal direction, and I think her influences. I listened to shout out Dan P. Carter. I listened to one of his swim podcasts. Someone Who Isn't Me was on with Poppy and her long-term collaborator Titanic Sinclair, probably not his real name. And it's very interesting, and I've certainly learned a lot more about her and where she sort of fits in the world. And I kind of realised that her influences are the likes of Bowie, Marilyn Manson, Andy Warhol. And basically the through line with those are like people who transform themselves and transition from one thing to another, people who I think she wants to be uncategorizable. And yeah, you half said it already. I don't think this album is strictly uncategorizable, but maybe as a career as a whole, maybe when she has a few more records, maybe it will be more like that. But then, it certainly is an interesting move, because if you think of pop stars who change what they do, your Bowies and your Madonnas, for example, very few of them have gone full on metal / industrial while still retaining a pop sheen and sensibility.
Yep.
Unless you have any that you can think of.
Lou
Mr.
Reed?
Hill. Is Lou Reed a pop star?
No, probably not. But I mean, when you
Because
brought up
you're
Bowie-
thinking heavy metal machine music.
yeah.
And also, is that metal or is it just unlistenable?
Vanilla Ice. Vanilla
Really?
Ice made a new metal album.
Oh fuck, he did, didn't he? I thought, shit. Oh, well, there we
I
go.
mean, and finally, someone has exhumed the corpse of Vanilla Ice, and it's Poppy.
Well, this is a total waste of time then. Forgive me for bringing it in. But yeah, a couple of you mentioned on, I think it was the Facebook page, and were surprised that we didn't cover it last week. And as I said, I didn't really think it really fitted in with Riot Act. But then we had a discussion about it over the phone. And the discussion it was really interesting. And I stopped you in your tracks and I said, you know what? I think this is an interesting thing to talk about, even though you're probably going to be able to guess what we think about it. But I still think it's interesting to talk about this album.
Yeah, it's awful. It's really bad, and it's bad because, and this is before people start jumping up and down. I, having just spoken about a band like And You're Nursed by the Trail of Dead, who seamlessly weave so many different moods and styles and ideas so cohesively into one part. And when you think of, I mean, again, I think because I've heard something that's coming out later this year, which has so many different varieties of stuff going on, but feels so cohesive.
Yes.
We spoke about Blood Command.
Yes.
We spoke about Fucked Up, obviously, on the albums of the year.
I think we've just spoken about Trail of Dead, actually. Trail of Dead do lots of different types of things, and that's always. I just said. So I thought you said Blood Command and.
Well, yeah, but before that, I started by saying having just spoken about Trail of Dead.
I do apologise.
He's not listening at all.
Well, I had a text message which I had to get back to that instant. I do apologise.
But yeah, Trail of Dead. We spoke about Blood Command, Fucked Up. I think there are bands who we've spoken about in the past and said these are genuine melting pots where everything fits in together.
Yes. The word I used on the phone and something I use on this podcast all the time is a genuine hybridization.
Hybridization is a great word, yeah.
Which I believe is a word. Have I invented that word? I don't know.
No, I don't think you have, actually.
For once.
But the baby metal comparisons are obviously quite a big one, right? And I understand that because baby metal do a fairly similar thing. And we were quite, I don't particularly care for baby metal. Like, I've not listened to that album since it came out.
Yeah, my first comparison point was baby metal. I went, okay, this is baby metal, basically.
Yeah.
And it basically is.
But here's the thing about baby metal, right? Which is why I give baby metal a pass and why I don't want to give this a pass. I feel like baby metal take the tropes of kind of ridiculous Japanese pop and Japanese culture and the tropes of the kind of the silliest, dopiest, gumbiest metal and just ramp them up, ramp all of those cliches up to a level where it just becomes fun. Do you know what I mean? It's undoubtedly ludicrous. It's undoubtedly over the top, but it is uncontrollably catchy and nice and fun and kind of reverential.
Baby metal are definitely more fun than this is.
Yeah. Whereas this, for me, it being kind of Western and contemporary metal, it just doesn't work for me. It just doesn't work where you take kind of serious, like bog standard metalcore and then like this kind of sexy white girl thing and it feels really icky.
You're saying baby metal doesn't feel icky because it definitely felt icky in the beginning.
No,
I mean, there were a lot of people who were clearly fans of baby metal for reasons beyond the music.
Yeah, okay, you can't control your fans. You can control what you do.
Sure.
Baby metal have never been, like, as far as I'm concerned, I've never seen anything with baby metal and gone, this is set up to be sexualized.
No,
in any
true.
way. I think people who say that are just being like
fucking perverts.
Yeah, it's like, well, if you see something pervy in just being a young girl, then I think you've got a real problem. I think this is like, slut drops and beatdowns combined.
I mean, she's 25.
That's fine. Hey, look, you're 25. You be sexy as you want, but to me,
thanks.
There's something there's something that I just go, I don't know about this. It just like I don't really enjoy either of those things particularly. I mean, I enjoy modern metalcore more than you.
Absolutely.
Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But this feels quite sloppy in a lot of places. The only time that it does work, there's a little bit on the first track where it goes to a kind of Queen style guitar line comes in, and then it goes to kind of early Britney Spears pop, and I get that.
Oh, okay.
I think that can work. I think that could work, but the kind of the metalcore sexy girl shtick. No, thank you.
This is interesting. I agree with you on some points. I disagree with you on others. I think overall, personally, I think this is more successful than Baby Metal because I suppose I'm viewing it as an album, but as an album, it's 35 minutes long, and I don't think it all works. I certainly agree with you in terms of cohesiveness, and just to reiterate your point, this is not a true hybridization. It is metal part, then pop part, then industrial part, then Queen guitar line part, then Britney Spears pop part. It is just those bits joined together relatively well, but that isn't true hybrid music.
No.
I think Baby Metal have never released, of the 3 albums they've released, Baby Metal have never released an album where I don't get bored at some point, because it's just full on
Baby Metal albums are too long.
They're too long because they're all between 50 minutes and an hour, the Baby Metal records. I will say with this album,
there's nothing as good as Karate on this record.
No, I'd probably agree with that. But I don't get bored at any I don't put this on. I don't love this record, but I don't put it on and get bored at any point, because it's 35 minutes and it's in and out, and it's got a lot of ideas on it, and there's a lot going on. I don't think it's all successful, but I think it is at the very least very interesting, and I think it is very interesting that Kerrang have put them on the cover. So I was going to say early in her career, but I suppose she's 3 records in. But early.
Well, certainly it's the first time this has been. I mean, she did a song with Fever 333 last year.
Yes, she did.
And again, I thought that was,
I don't think I ever heard of it actually.
Bit of a monstrosity, to be honest.
But, okay.
I think I don't get bored by it.
No.
And in fact, there's actually parts of it where I find myself tapping my foot along, and there's times in it where I go like, actually, that works quite well. There's a song, "Feel the Crown" is quite good, only because it sounds like a kind of weird Marilyn Manson mix with. It's got a Marilyn Manson backing vocal, but some of the music sounds a bit like Dan Lasac and Scroobius Pip. If you listen to that kind of cut and paste UK hip hop that started about. Didn't start, but became quite popular about 10 years ago. Yeah. I quite like that.
It's quite a lot of 90s industrial on this, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, to be fair. And
swap Marilyn Manson for Rob Zombie at certain points, and a lot of the industrial feels very 90s.
And there's stuff like the chorus where I Disagree, I think is really good as well, the title track.
I think Bite Your Teeth is not miles away from the sort of thing that Devin Townsend could produce on one of his wackier...
I do understand that. I mean, I'm not going to be annoyed by it, because I think some people are like, how dare you compare Devin Townsend to Genius. But
I think he would have made a couple of different choices in terms of production for that song, but actually that could be one of the madder moments from a Deconstruction or even an Empath, one of the more zany moments of Devin's stuff.
I don't, to bring back what we were saying about Bring Me the Horizon last week, when I was like, is it cynical? I mean, it's obviously, this isn't a cynical thing. It's obviously something that she wants to do.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a cynical marketing ploy. I don't see it as like, I don't want people like this in our scene. She's a pop star and fuck off. Like, I don't feel like that either. I just feel that it's 2 types of music, a bit like A Day to Remember. I think, well, you've got to be really, really good to be a sort of metalcore band in amongst a sea of endless nothingness, and you've got to be really good as a kind of female pop star. And I don't think she's amazing at either of those things.
I wanted to ask you about this, because you clearly know a lot more about pop music, and especially modern pop music, than I do, because I listen to this, and whilst I'm not a fan of the sort of more saccharine poppy elements and the sort of bubblegum lyrics, let's say, sometimes literally bubblegum lyrics, I didn't, so as I'm not an expert on the pop parts, but I didn't feel like any of it was bad or badly done.
No, I don't think it's bad.
A lot of the pop parts reminded me of Katy Perry, who's an artist who I personally am not interested in and I've never listened to. But at the same time, I don't listen to Katy Perry and go, oh God, she's awful. I think she's brilliant at what she does.
Yeah, Katy Perry's good.
It's just not for me. And I feel like this isn't for me either. But I can't fault it on a sort of intellectual I can't fault the individual pop parts on an individual level personally.
I think it's odd because I don't really feel like that type of pop is really very popular anymore. There's not really many people coming out and making that type of pop music and being successful. I mean, when you look, I mean, we go back to who's been nominated at the Brits, and it's Lana Del Rey and and Lizzo.
Everything's cyclical, though. I mean,
of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. But it's not really. Katy Perry's changed quite a lot, I guess.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift's new stuff doesn't really sound like this, and Taylor Swift is a cut above this for sure.
Okay.
But I mean, even her latter material, it doesn't really sound like, this is a lot of this feels much more like, I don't even know, because it's kind of not even teeny, it's like preschooly, a lot of the pop bits, aren't they? It's well nursery rhyme. That kind of like sucking my thumb and pretending I'm a little girl, like that to me feels more icky. Let's use the word icky because I don't want to get too like Baby Metal never felt. Baby Metal were young kids and they were like, yeah, I like chocolate, and I always thought, oh, that's fine, that doesn't feel. Whereas Poppy's a 25-year-old woman and she's like, oh yeah, it's all sugary sweet in my mouth, and I'm like, oh, and then a big riff goes gung gung gung, and you're like, oh
God, you've made it sound really good.
Yeah.
Isn't she trying to be provocative? Isn't that why?
Yeah, but is that provocative?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I mean, if it is, then if she's trying to be provocative, then I thought we were sort of past shit like that. Do you know what I mean? I thought the world was, like, I'm a whittle girl. Like, no, I think in a sort of post Me Too world, do you really want girls sort of dressing in, pop socks and pretending they're at school and all that shit? Like, and I'm not.
Is she doing that, or is that what
I've
you're
not seen
doing?
any pictures of her, just to be clear. But in my head, I visualize her, like when I hear that, like that quite sort of nursery rhymey, very, very like sort of innocent sounding. Like to me, I don't know. Maybe this is the same as what people were doing with Baby Metal, but I don't know. There's something about about modern Western pop music to me, which always feels very, very, very over sexualized, and I can't help but kind of to join the dots on those things, because that is what it's been like for so long. That's what so much modern pop music is about.
There is definitely a sort of sweet, innocent delivery on a lot of the pop bits, I would say. She can do all the scream stuff as well. They clearly get other people in for some bits of that, but she can do all that. I don't know what that would be like live. I do very much think that this is a pop artist who is taking a step into the metal world.
Yeah, for sure.
And probably, by the sounds of it, I think she's chameleonic, or wanting to be chameleonic at the very least. And so this may be the only metal record she does, or I'm pretty sure from listening to the Dan P. Carter interview and from watching a couple of interviews on YouTube that her next album will be completely different from this, I would imagine. And I think that's what she wants to do in the same tradition as the David Bowies and the Madonnas and so on and so forth. And, I don't. You said that the metal elements were fairly bog standard. I don't think. I think sometimes they're actually quite good. I think they're very digital and very processed. There's nothing analog about this record at all.
It's bloody. It is that deathcore 101.
Some of it is. But I think there are maybe a lot of it, but I think there are bits that I do go, wow, that is pretty fucking meaty, and that is pretty well done in a digitized Pro Tool to fucked kind of way, which is more down to my taste than anything else.
Yeah.
Which is my issue with a lot of metalcore as well, funnily enough. But yeah, I think she and her collaborators clearly have a fairly strong understanding of metal and how it works. I don't think
definitely modern metalcore.
Yeah.
And that's for sure.
Yeah.
I just feel like
But it is manufactured. It's massively manufactured, and to give her credit, I think she would be the first person to admit that. But then I was thinking about this, and I thought this might open an interesting topic conversation. I was thinking back to some of her influences, and of course, a lot of the David Bowie stuff was manufactured. Marilyn Manson is manufactured. It's just manufactured in a different sort of sense and a different way.
She's a pop star, yeah.
She's a pop
I don't
star.
care. Like, ultimately, what comes out the speakers is the only important thing.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest one you mentioned that is a Sex Pistol. You didn't mention is the Sex Pistols. The Sex Pistols are not a fucking. Absolutely. As fucking manufactured as any band ever.
Yeah.
But the fucking album's still amazing. And I actually think, if we'd have reviewed this after I'd given it one listen, I would be very, very unhappy with it.
Right. Okay.
But it's grown on me. I'm
It's
not going to
grown on
say
me
it's
a
not
little
grown
bit.
on me.
Yeah.
Because it has. I still feel like I don't want it to particularly to grow on me. I still feel kind of, I think morally opposed makes me sound like a real cock. And I'm aware of that. And I've probably said some things that are a little bit, may well be a little bit unfair. I think that the end of Don't Go Outside which has got a really sugary melody, but with quite a lot of kind of crushing noise off the back of it. It kind of ends with all this like feedback and stuff and her singing over the top of it. And I was like, see, that's good. I can kind of get with that a little bit, but I don't know. There's just something about how, you're right, how unorganic it sounds.
Yeah.
And how it's sort of taken two things which I think on their own can kind of just exist on their own and be pretty average and have kind of come together to make something which feels... It doesn't feel... No, I was going to say it feels cynical, but it doesn't feel cynical. I can't really put my finger on what the problem is.
I think
the mediums are just not right.
I think by bringing those two things together, I think it makes it more interesting, but it doesn't necessarily make them better.
Yeah, that's
what I would say.
Yeah.
So, and I think this record is all right, and I think people younger than you and me, I think a lot of people younger than you and me, we talk about this quite a lot. People brought up on the streaming generation, let's say, who have had access to anything they want to listen to for the majority of their lives or teenage years, will get this more than we old cynics.
I don't think that's true, Renfrew.
Do you not?
I think that's a real cop-out. I think that's a really easy cop-out thing to say.
Not trying to cop out. All right.
Like, do you know what I mean? To just go, oh, how would we know? Like, do you know, it's not like shit like this didn't exist. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've mentioned Madonna and David Bowie. You've mentioned artists that she's influenced by. Like, it's not like this didn't exist before.
But David Bowie didn't take a genre style, play it for 20 seconds, and then bolt on another genre style.
No, but plenty of other people have done in the past. I mean, fucking
in that cut and paste fashion.
Well, I think you can
I think
go
that's
back,
a very
you can
modern
go back
trope
to,
in music.
Well, I don't know. I think you can go back to someone like Primus. If you listen to some of Primus's earlier material, where they literally do stop and start, and I think you listen to some of the Chariot have done that before. I know that's obviously going a little bit further into the future. I think there's plenty of jazz musicians, plenty of like metal bands that have been influenced by jazz. You could listen to the Dillinger Escape Plan, or a band who did that early on in their career quite a lot.
Maybe what I mean is like, yes, I can see what you're saying with all of those bands, but they don't make it. That isn't like their thing. This feels like with Poppy, and it feels like there's a few artists like this coming out. Okay. And I don't think that makes it better. I think it actually makes it worse.
Just because it's their thing, just because that's your shtick. I mean, that's all it is. It's just a shtick.
Well,
like, let's not pretend like this is...
It's a shtick,
Yeah, that's not pretend like this is like, we're going, I've never heard anything like this before. I have heard stuff like this before.
No, I don't think it's
the fucking Discharge album is 7 years old now. And... that ain't even a new version. I heard that and went, well, this is really weird. But it's not like I'd gone, I've never heard anything like this before.
Sure.
So I think that is a massive cop-out to just go like, how are we meant to know? When it used to be, everything was 3 minutes long when we were growing up, and it was just pop songs. Like, bullshit.
I think what I mean is simply that...
standards have slipped. That's what I mean.
There's a generation of people who have grown up like putting on playlists which will have, this is why Ammo is like, people who respond to Ammo and Bring Me Are Doing tend to be younger people for the most part, because they have that whole playlist mentality.
Yeah, that's fine.
But
that's fine.
I'm not saying that someone older could not get this. I just, when I listen to this, I feel really old, and I just go, this isn't for me.
Yeah, I suppose I do as well.
Yeah,
there you go. But I do think that is a little bit of a, we listen to fucking 300 albums or something every year.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening to 300 albums every year for God knows how long. Like, that would infuriate me if someone just, wow, you're just old, you don't get it. It's like, this is not new.
No.
Like, it's like people on, it's again a bit of a deviation, but when I said something about when Tool knocked Taylor Swift off the top of the charts, and a load of 17-year-olds were going, look, all the 40-year-old men are going to be unhappy. It's like, Taylor Swift is probably closer in age to those people than that she is to you. She's been around for fucking... Stop making out like she's new. She's not new. Like, are you mad? Just because you're young and you've just heard something, you think that no one else has ever heard it before? Come on.
I'm certainly not saying that this is new or anything like that.
It's just what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Anyway, that's I Disagree by Poppy. Cheers, guys. We binned off the Sylvain EP for that. All right. Let's talk about Let's talk about Gargantua, Toward the Sun. This is, I believe, the debut full-length record.
I think the PR note said it was the third album, but I didn't bother to check it.
Well, I assume they were EPs, but they might just be albums, because tracks don't make any difference.
You just never know these days.
Because they're long, aren't they? They're a doom band. So basically, all right, it's the third release, certainly.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if this was considered an album. The other two are EPs.
Yeah, I feel
Obviously,
like this is definitely an album. This is like 48 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah. Leicester-based Doommongers out on Holy Roar.
Yes. Sign of quality.
Absolutely a sign of quality. We've done a bit of Doom in the past.
We've done a bit of Doom in the past.
I think you and I both quite like a bit of Doom, Renfrey. Is that fair?
Do you know what? I'm gonna no. So I like. I'm very, 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 very particular about my Doom. Very, very particular. I like Paul.
You like a bit of it.
I like a little bit of it. I like a little bit of Paul Barron. I like a little bit of Elder. I tend to
like Elder. I wouldn't call him a Doom band personally, but continue.
There's doomy elements in Elder.
Well, yeah, there are.
But generally, 9 times out of 10, Doom just... I mean, this is going to sound strange coming from someone who likes post-rock, but Doom just doesn't move forward quickly enough for me. And I get bored very, very quickly with, I would say, 90% of the Doom bands that I listen to. I even find Sleep a bit boring. And they're meant to be like the ultimate Doom band. Kind of.
Not everything they've done is great.
No.
Holy Mountains.
It's very good.
It's fucking ace.
You know, I saw it at, watching it at Roadburn. I was a bit like, there's bits of this which are a bit boring. But anyway.
I think you got to really love Doom to really love Doom.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. And I am definitely not one of those people.
No,
but I like it in bits and pieces.
I've come to realise, I used to really like it, but I've come to realise that, it's been a long time since I've had a Doom, something that would come under Doom that I've really liked. I'll
give you an example.
Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard.
Oh, that's a good. Although yes, and Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard definitely are doomy, but they're like half doom, half prog.
Yeah.
I suppose Elder, you could argue, is half doom, half prog as well, and that's suddenly
70-30.
70-30 maybe, but that suddenly makes me kind of more interested generally. And there are proggy elements in some of this album. It feels like it sort of does like proggy doom song, proggy doom song, doom song.
Well, what I like about this actually, if we're now going into it, which I think we are,
we have.
How the really metal elements of it, because Doom is metal obviously, but Doom isn't always it's heavy, but it's a different type of heavy to heavy metal heavy. Do you know what I mean? It's metal,
yeah.
but it's, doom is quite crushing and, like you say, it's slow and crushing and
bowel quaking,
constrictive, isn't it? It's just like, and it's just in your face and in your sort of, it's all around you all the time. Kind of, it feels just like this a bleak black nothingness.
Feels more like an atmosphere than
Whereas heavy metal, the sort of bombast and power of heavy metal, that kind of chest thumping heavy metal. You listen to a song like Lightbearer on this, and for me, which I think is a great song, fucking great song, has got a lot of pure heavy metal power to it, and I like that about this record, that it does utilize that a bit.
I have the exact opposite view to
Do you?
Yeah, I like this band when they bring in proggier elements, but when it's more sort of traditional doom, I get a bit bored. Lightbearer and Maya are the two songs that I wrote down as songs where I'm like, a bit bored by this now.
I see that. Certainly Lightbearer. Maya, I like Maya as well. I mean, like we said, I think you have to really like doom to like doom, and I think this is the sort of album that I can never imagine really loving.
Yeah,
because it is ultimately a doom album. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to be like, oh man, that fucking Toward the Sun is the great album. Like, oh, it's so great. But I do like it. Like, when it's on, it certainly kept my attention fucking far more than a lot of these records I've heard in the past. I mean, I've just sort of not really bothered with many doom bands recently because I feel like we've done it. It's happened.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, this is probably really controversial to massive doom heads, but when you've got bands like Pallbearer, I'm just kind of like, how do you get it much better than that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that last Pallbearer album is great.
Yeah, and I when I like this, I really like it. I would say it's a 48-minute record, and I would say that I really like probably almost exactly half of it. But it is the proggier elements, the proggier stuff. I would say songs like The New Sun, Transcendence, Controlling Waves. It's when they go a little bit more kind of experimental and proggy, I guess. And I just feel I do like this record like you do, but I like it for the exact opposite reasons.
I think that's fair, because the times where I sort of find myself checking my watch a bit are the times where it's not really raging.
How interesting. I would say the exact opposite.
Right. Okay.
That's interesting.
We're different, guys.
Taste.
Look how much Renfrew likes Five Finger Death Punch. I mean, it's good. This is a good record. I mean, particularly for a genre of music which I've sort of fallen out of love with, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Then I think it's made me go, yeah, I would listen to this again. I mean, I'm literally like, you said Pallbearer. I think Pallbearer actually did quite a different type of thing.
It's far more melodic, isn't it? Yeah. I agree, actually.
With the exception of Mammoth Weed Wizard Bastard, I can't think of a band that come under that umbrella that I've wanted to listen to
in recent years.
Yeah, in the last few years.
No, neither can I. To be honest,
I mean, I like
OMS maybe.
Yeah, I mean, again, OMS are Doom, like they feel a little bit more. Again, they feel.
I'm clutching at straws slightly. Yeah. I kind of put OMS and Boss Keloid down, but Boss Keloid, I feel like I'm really clutching at straws. Because they're far more progressive.
I much prefer sort of sludge, I guess. New Orleans sludge.
I'm the same. Yeah.
To Doom.
I tend to prefer sludge. However, if you do really like Doom, if you go to Roadburn every single year and the doomier bands are the sorts of things that you really, really like at Roadburn, I think this is probably really, really good. It's just I don't think it's maybe suited to our tastes personally. But
I mean, it is good.
Yeah.
It's undoubtedly good.
Yeah.
It is good, yeah. It's just, as you said, it's not something that I can't get really, really excited about it.
No.
What I can do is say they're very good at doing a type of music which I'm not mad keen on, and they're also very good at making that type of music a little bit more interesting than most bands do.
Yep.
Certainly, like I say, when they go into the more proper metal bits, proper metal, those bits that are proper riffy, proper metally, proper like hard and heavy. I think they're really good at that.
Living up to your brand.
Thank you.
I like the proggy stuff. But yeah, I mean,
Living up to yours.
I'm living up to mine.
Fucking brand. Anyway, yeah. But they're good. Good record, all the same. I think, like, if you're listening and you're sitting there and, like, your favourite band are fucking Cathedral, then get on it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is Gargantua, Toward the Sun. The final release we're going to talk about this week comes from Pressure Cracks. It's an EP called This Is Called Survival. It is the second EP from the Fever 333 frontman Jason Butler's straight up hardcore band. Pretty much. We like Jason Butler.
I love Jason Butler.
You love Jason Butler.
I love Jason
like
Butler.
His pretty crap band.
We've discussed this a lot.
Band. Yeah, we have. Now, Renfrey.
Do you think this is straight up hardcore? Yeah, relatively.
Yes,
I think compared to Jason's other projects, yes.
Yes, I think this is a really good version of quite modern hardcore.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Did you listen to the first Pressure Cracks album?
I
EP?
did when it came out, and I can't remember anything about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty much
I have
the
a
same.
horrible feeling that I'll go, this is really good, and then never listen to it again. Because he's got so much other stuff that I would... If someone goes to me, what Jason Butler you're going to listen to?
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I remember listening to the first Pressure Cracks EP and being like, oh, cool. I'm really happy that Jason's still he's still got one foot in that aggressive hardcore punk thing, because let's face it, he's really fucking good at it. But not being mega excited beyond that. I just thought it was a cool release and I liked it. I think this is a massive step up, and I've gone from being vaguely interested in Pressure Cracks to now really, really wanting a full-length album, because I think the quality of this EP is way beyond the quality of the first one.
It probably is, because, I mean, as I said, I don't remember the first one at all.
First one is very forgettable, to be honest.
Yeah, this is very good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Abrasive, dissonant punk, kind of, hardcore punk, in the mould of Every Time I Die.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I think his voice makes a hell of a difference.
Yeah.
Because I tried to imagine it without the voice, and song structurally, it's pretty basic, really hardcore. Like, the actual music for it, not a million miles away from Madball. Just lots of crush, lots of thump, lots of cranking, lots of beat downs, lots of fucking chug. It's not the, I was about to say it's not Let Live. Obviously it's not Let Live, and it's not meant to be Let Live. That's fine. I like straight down the line.
Yeah.
Just fucking thud and crushing, blah, blah, blah.
I would have been really surprised if we'd come in here and you said you didn't like this.
No, I
would have
do
been
like
stunned.
it.
Yeah,
I do like
this
it.
is right up your street.
Yeah, it's really good. But what it's got is, I think there was a bunch of bands that we talked about last year who released, there was a lot of EPs that came out last year from quite a lot of good young British bands who released some really good sort of heavy debut EPs. Creature, I think we mentioned. Obviously Lotus Eater were another one as well. And those bands are really, really good. And I think this is of a similar type and probably of a similar quality. But what it has, which puts it kind of just sort of gets over the fence, is Jason is amazing in it. I mean, Jason is fucking great, and his voice when he screams, when he really, really goes for it, it was lovely to hear that totally wild again. Because I think even you have to admit, as someone who likes Fever 333, even the heavy bits and even the heavier songs on Fever 333 have never ever got to the point of the heavier songs on any of the Let Live records.
I mean, I certainly think this is probably the heaviest thing Jason's put his name to, and this is around about as heavy as Let Live got. But this is like as heavy as Let Live got for 12 minutes straight kind of thing. So yes, no, I think in a roundabout way, yes, I do agree. I agree with pretty much everything you said, bar. I think this is ever so musically, if you took Jason out of it, I think this is ever so slightly above average. But I think Jason really pushes it into, this is really fucking good kind of territory.
No, I never meant that the songs were average.
Okay.
I just meant that what they do is you've heard
it
everything they do. You've definitely heard before. And, just to be clear, it doesn't bother me at all.
No, but it is really well done, isn't it? Yeah, that's the thing. It's really well done. It's quite dissonant in places. As I said, there's bits of Every Time I Die. I think bits of Poison the Well, maybe bits of Jesus Piece. But fronted by Jason Butler, fronted by one of the best frontmen this century. Yeah. So that's really exciting.
Even a little bit. Do you know? It reminded me a little bit of Ghost of a Thousand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Who I love, by the way.
Yep.
Long forgotten Brighton-based noughties hardcore band.
Yep.
For those who don't remember them, they're really good. Yeah, I know this is very good.
I think it's sad to think that because I don't think you're one of these people, but a lot of people have very strongly taken against Fever 333.
I'm one of those people.
Well, no, I haven't finished. A lot of people strongly taken against Fever 333, and as a result, will probably judge everything Jason does and tar it with that'll be shit brush. And it's kind of ironic because I think a lot of those people, if they didn't know Jason was involved in this, would probably listen to this and think it was fucking brilliant. It's just a bit of a shame, really, but there you go. I
don't know. I feel like everyone wants Jason to do well, don't they?
Not some of the conversations that I have had with people, but yeah, depends.
Who have you been talking to?
Well, I don't really want to say on the show, but I'll tell you afterwards.
Name and shame, Renfrey. Name and shame. Anyway, I like it. I think it's really good. It's 4 tracks, it's 12 minutes. It sounds like a hardcore band, but with, one of the best vocalists in the last fucking 15 years.
Yeah.
Right, really good.
Every time it finishes, I want to hear more, and I think that's a very, very good indication, and that's what you want from an EP. And I do really... After listening to the first EP, I was like, cool. I like that. Now, after listening to this EP, I'm like, I want a full-length album now.
Yeah,
please.
Me too. I'd like a full-length album. Bin off Fever 333 and do this instead, if you like. So anyway, this is called Survival by Pressure Cracks. Let's do the first trade-off of the decade.
Hooray.
We're back. So I don't know who wants to go first, because I feel both like there's quite a lot to talk about on both these records.
Yeah, I agree.
I gave you 1 Second by Paradise Lost. You gave me Shadows Collide with People by John Frusciante. I think... let's talk about 1 Second first. I reckon. So, Paradise Lost, the 6th album by the Yorkshire Doom Merchants. Sort of, more Doom, not really. From 1997, the follow-up to the classic Draconian Times, and the first time really that the band had given up on doom metal for a more electronic and gothy sound, which, having just spoken fairly at length about doom, probably feels like a good idea for a band 6 albums in their career.
Definitely.
To try and do something like that.
Lots of Depeche Mode in this.
Yeah.
Cure?
A little bit, yeah, a little tiny bit. Paradise Lost were getting called the UK's Metallica only a couple of years prior to the release of this record, after Draconian Times took them to the main stage at the last ever Monsters of Rock Festival.
I was about to say that was primarily because of Draconian Times, wasn't it, really?
Yes.
Which is a wonderful album.
I was going to say, Draconian Times, great record. Your relationship with Paradise Lost as a band, Renfrey, you mentioned last week, I like the one with skulls on. Or something.
Yes, which is called The Plague Within. I looked that up because I didn't think it was good enough to say the one with skulls on, especially for a band who are predominantly a metal band. My relationship is they are a band that I've been aware of pretty much since I've been listening to metal, but didn't actually properly listen to until I received a promo for The Plague Within.
Okay.
Funnily enough, yeah. And you just, when you just have those bands which have a really vast back catalogue and you're just like, I'll get round to them at some point. But when I get into bands, I really want to listen to everything that they've done. So I'm aware that kind of... In a way that makes me leave the bigger bands with a vast back catalogue for later, because I go, that's going to be a big investment in my time. And Paradise Lost was just one of those bands. But then when I got The Plague Within sent to me as a promo, I was like, well, this is probably a good opportunity to go on this. and really liked it. Really liked The Plague Within. Liked the follow-up to that, Medusa, not quite as much, but still thought it was very good. And then I went back to Draconian Times because that's the one that everyone said was the classic. And this 1 Second Now is the fourth Paradise Lost record I've listened to.
Great. For the record, I really do. Paradise Lost are another band. I mean, it's funny again to sort of reference what we were talking about earlier. I don't love Paradise Lost in the same way as I love A New Nurse by the Trail of Dead, but Paradise Lost are one of those bands who I don't listen to often, and then I go and then I put on Symbol of Life or Icon or Draconian Times or Gothic or or this, and I go, oh fuck me,
They are
Paradise
great,
Lost,
aren't they? Yeah.
They're fucking great. Like, what a great band. And particularly, I think I tweeted while we were doing this, Paradise Lost, that run of from 1990 to 1997, an excellent run, basically up to Host, and like, annoyingly Host, which was the album that came after this and took them even further down this road.
Oh, really?
Was
Right,
critically panned beyond belief, and was sort of seen as their death knell. I think Paradise Lost did quite a clever thing here because, as I said, being compared to the UK's Metallica, just as nu metal and all that it involved was about to drop, was probably not a bad idea to try and get away from the traditional metal ideology and vibe and style and
certainly
embrace something else.
The idea of Paradise Lost turning new metal, which lesser bands would have done, is not a good one, is it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that yes, that absolutely did work for them, because it felt like there were a few years where the hair got cut and they started wearing shirts and leather trousers and stuff in it, and it all became it was a bit Depeche Mode, but on a budget sort of thing. And the music didn't always add up to that. But there was this brief little period where Draconian Times, this classic record that everyone was sort of tipping them for such massive things for, had ended, and then they came back with 1 Second and confused a lot of people. And the record itself, I think, I'll see what you think in a minute, but I think it's a brilliant record. And I remember it coming out and thinking, what's the problem with this? It's great. And it didn't really get that well received, but...
Did it not? Because I didn't... I was going to look this up, and then I decided I'd just have you tell me instead, because I thought it'd be a more interesting conversation.
Yes. Well, I think it got quite a good review in Kerrang initially.
Okay.
And then they put Soul Courageous on a Kerrang CD, which would probably be the first Paradise Lost song I ever heard, I think, would be Soul Courageous.
Oh, right. Okay.
On a Kerrang CD. And then I heard Sage's Words, which is obviously an absolutely massive, massive song, and probably the closest thing they've ever had to a hit. I saw that on Super Rock with Julia Valet on MTV. If any of you remember that, you probably might do. Do you not?
No.
Oh, man. It was after Headbangers Ball finished, and they replaced it with Super Rock.
Okay.
With Julia Valet, who was a very pretty French lady who sat in a hotel room, sort of like a kind of trashed after party of some sort of rock after party, and she sat
as in that was like the set.
The set was like this sort of dank hotel room, and it had like broken champagne glasses and bottles and stuff, and it was like she sort of sat in this hotel room and she spoke in kind of faux poetic, like this kind of hoity-toity, really, like she it would be something ridiculous like why does the world have to be so negative? We long for positivity, but the only type I'll get is negative. Here's the new video from Typo, and it was shit, right? It was rubbish. It was really shit. It's probably on YouTube. You can probably listen to. You can probably go and watch it over Super Rock on YouTube. But anyway, I saw the video for 1 second, and I was like, "This is a fucking rager." And then it became the first Paradise Lost album that I got. Okay. I think it's aged really, really well. They brought out its 20th anniversary remastered edition a couple of years ago.
Yes.
But as time progressed, and especially after Host came out, and then after Host came Believe in Nothing, which got even panned even more. I mean,
Really?
that got 1K. That definitely got 1K in Kerrang because Paradise Lost brought out a T-shirt that said Dave Everly's a cunt, I think it said.
Oh, yes, of course they did.
And,
I remember this,
yeah, Believe in Nothing. And then I think Symbol of Life was after that. Yeah, which is actually really good. It's got an amazing cover of Small Town Boy by Bronski Beat, which is really, really good. But yes, it became a thing. Like 1 second was the moment where that's when they sold out. And look at them now; they're a fucking state. They're trying to be a pop band, and it never really happened for them. All that aside, it's not really about me. It's about you, Renfrew.
It's all about me.
It's all about you. What do you think of the record?
I think overall this is a very good album. I was a little bit trepidatious because sometimes you've given me records where a band have massively changed their signature style and it's not been very successful. I was a little bit trepidatious, but overall I thought this was really good. I certainly, when I put the first song on, which I can't remember the name of now.
1 second.
There we go. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. I had
for 1 second. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had a little dip. The single that they released from this song, the second track,
Sage's Words, yeah, banger.
Just ever so slightly the wrong size of cheese for me.
Oh, really? Okay.
Only just, and I'm being a little picky. A band who I kind of think have had a similar progression to Paradise Lost, I guess. I don't know if I'd compare the two, certainly now anyway, but I always feel like Anathema were the sort of the band that I took to my heart a little bit more than Paradise Lost.
Poor My Dying Bride. Been left out of this, haven't they?
Although we'll be reviewing the new My Dying Bride in a few weeks, I believe.
Yes, we will.
Anathema balance on a very, very thin line between brilliance and cheese quite a lot, and occasionally fall over into the cheese bracket a little bit too much, and it just reminded me of that. So I was kind of like, I'm still fond of it, but I don't love it, kind of thing. Yeah. But then it got really good again, and I really like that for the main influences for this album are things which I respect. A lot of stuff that you've introduced me to, but I wouldn't go as far as to say that I love and listen to regularly.
That's what I was going to kind of ask you about, really, is that considering this album is, in most people, commercially speaking, definitely a far less successful version of a bunch of stuff which came out in the 80s, which you don't really care for that much.
Oh, which I've got a lot of respect for, but I don't tend to listen to. Don't tend to choose to listen to.
Interested. I was interested if you would just go, see it for what most people called it at the time, which is just like, why are you jumping on the Depeche Mode train? Why are you jumping on the, the Cure? Or probably less the Cure, to be fair. But
I think there's a bit of Cure,
Sisters of Mercy and stuff like that.
I actually heard a bit of typo in this as well. Actually,
yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Especially in Mercy. The thing is I know you're not strictly saying this, but at that time, I don't think Depeche Mode and The Cure and all that sort of stuff weren't cool or popular then. So it doesn't
Depeche Mode actually, it would have been Delta is the name of the record that came out then. I had Walking in My Shoes, which is a massive hit.
Okay.
So yeah, Depeche
I will
Mode
defer
still...
to you. But let's say new wave, synth wave, whatever you want to call it, that kind of thing. Because that was the previous decade's thing. Yeah. It's usually the thing that is seen as uncool is what has just been kind of thing, isn't it? 9 times out of 10. And synth wave was very much an 80s thing. We were now in the 90s. I mean, going towards the noughties or whatever you want to call it. But I don't think the majority of that sort of Duran were
Duran were in
considered cool
trouble
at all in the 90s. Like they in fact they were considered the total opposite of cool.
It was funny. I was nearly going to give you a Duran album for next week, but I just thought I can't do that 2 weeks. Give you something like that 2 weeks running. So I'm going to save that. And the one that I was going to give you was from the 90s. We'll definitely do that one day.
Okay. But no, for the most part, I really enjoyed this. I thought bar Say No Words, that is the Say Just Words, sorry. Bar Say Just Words, I thought like the first 2/3 of it were excellent, mainly. Like I kind of tire of it a little bit towards the end, but I think that is probably more due to it not being to my tastes more than the quality dipping.
Oh no, I think the first half's definitely the best half. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
I
In that
think,
case,
personally, I mean, I like the record a lot. It's not my favorite. I mean, what's sort of funny about this is it's not my favorite Paradise Lost record at all.
no.
But I do think it's really good, and it's got a little. And I think it's interesting. Like I nearly gave you Host because Host was the only. Was it the only? I think it was. Yeah, I think it was the only major label record they released.
Oh right. What did that come out on?
Panned. It was. I think it was Virgin EMI.
Oh.
In fact, let me double check that. I will be able to check that for you in 2 seconds. But yeah, Host came out 2 years after this, and
you say that was even more down this
got
electronica
absolutely,
path.
and is just not. Yeah, it came out on EMI, and it's just the thing is it got slated, and it got kind of rightly slated because it's not a good record. I don't think.
What about the album after that, the 1K?
Believe in Nothing. Yeah, that's not great either.
Is that the same? Is that still this electronica path? Or?
Yeah, not to the extent of. I mean, Host is the one. It's weird because I think as time has gone on, people point at Host and go, "That's the worst one," because it was the major label one, and it's certainly the most poppy one. Certainly the poppiest one. Yeah, Host is not really very good. I have to say. Believe in Nothing, isn't great either. But I've not listened to that for a very, very long time. But I often go back to Host because I'm like, it can't be as bad as everyone makes out. And I really that contrary part of me really wants to like Host, just to go, no, it is good because I like that type of music, and I was always like, this is just metal fans being wankers. Do you know what I mean? But I think they might have it right on that occasion.
I think anyone who says that, I know you're talking about Host there, but anyone that would say that 1 Second is a bad record, I would be like, no, I don't think it is a bad record. I can understand, like, truthfully, of the 4 Paradise Lost records I've listened to, it probably is my least favourite, but that's more down to my taste rather than the actual quality of the record.
Well, certainly Draconian Times is the best one.
The Plague Within is pretty fucking shit hot as well. I mean, the only maybe I prefer this to Medusa. I've not listened to Medusa for a while, actually.
See, I didn't really care much for Medusa, I have to say.
No, I thought it was
Plague
quite good.
Within was all right. I mean, I would say if you like those two, I think In Requiem is really good. I think Faith Divides Us, Death Unites Us is really good as well.
Okay.
But, they didn't really... The Plague Within was the first one, I think, where Nick went back to growly vocals. Like, you should probably listen to Gothic. I mean, Gothic's...
Yeah. Isn't that the... No, it's
the
not
second one.
Second,
yeah. Gothic's, the best... For me, is the best at them doing the Doom thing. When they were well doomy. But yeah, that run of Gothic, Shades of God, Icon, Draconian Times, 1 Second, I think is really fucking strong. All of them are really, really good. But particularly, like Gothic is... I'm not even that fussed, but I don't think Gothic's great, to be honest, because I just don't... I would rather listen to something that sounds like 1 Second than something that sounds like Gothic, personally, because I like that type of music more. But Draconian Times are Icon, good, really good, like metal records, I think. And yeah, they've been a really interesting career that Paradise Lost have had, and this is part of the reason why I think their career has been so interesting, is because of how many iterations of what they do and what they've done. And as I said, having just spoken about Doom and the limitations of Doom, this is why a band like Paradise Lost are so revered, I think, because they just refuse to be pigeonholed in any way. What I mean? Even when they went back to go in, they're like, well, we're not a kind of synthy, gothy, band anymore. I mean, they could support High on Fire, and I mean, or Danzig.
Yeah.
I saw them supporting Danzig.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I think they supported Sisters of Mercy. They supported Danzig. And, but they probably, if they were going to do stuff from Medusa or, the early part of their career, they could play at Roadburn or something, I think.
Surely Paradise Lost have played Roadburn, haven't
Probably
they?
have. I mean, I don't know. But I'm just saying that like they would fit in.
I don't know this for a fact, but I would be somewhat surprised if they hadn't. To be honest,
okay.
they feel very much like a Roadburn band.
I think so. Anyway, there you go. That is it. 1 Second by Paradise Lost. Good, mate. Get on the old Paradise Lost back catalogue.
Yeah. Gothic first. Is that what you're saying?
I think for you, if you like Medusa, yeah, I'd go for Gothic. I mean, really, Draconian Times first, but yeah, those
I've heard Draconian Times. It's
I
great.
know you have, but I'm just saying that,
Oh,
that is the best. That is the best one. But yeah, those first kind of 3 or 4 are really good, and then there's ones in the mid noughties as well that are good. They're a good band. Shadows Collide with People, you gave me, by John Frusciante, released on the 24th of February 2004. The 4th studio album,
Yes.
by the former and now current Red Hot Chili Peppers guitarist.
Former, current.
Yeah, like former, current.
Yeah.
Current. Yeah, you gave me this, Renfrew. It's his 4th album. It feels like John Frusciante has released more albums than Paradise Lost.
Well, quite possibly, yes. We mentioned this last week, but there was that year where he released 8 albums in a year, something along those lines. It was really rather ridiculous.
Seems excessive.
It was very silly.
Yeah, I mean, excessive is a good word for this.
Okay.
Really, isn't it? Because this is an hour. It's
Definitely too long.
19 songs.
Yeah, 18, isn't it?
Well, it's got 19, and it's got stuff on it that
doesn't need to be on there.
Definitely doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
But go on, talk to me about this record before I.
Well, I suppose. I mean, I partly gave you this because of the news of John Frusciante being back in the band, but I've always maintained that John Frusciante is by far my favourite element of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and actually, so often I get frustrated with the Chili's because there is this element in the Chili's that I love, which is sort of surrounded by elements that I like a lot less, to say the least.
Anthony Kiedis.
And mainly Anthony Kiedis, yeah.
Yeah.
But even, I mean, controversially, even Flea, I think, who is clearly a phenomenal talent and phenomenal bassist, just overplays way too much, like he knows he's amazing, and sometimes when he's reined in, anyway, we're not talking about Chili's. But Chad Smith and John Frusciante are easily my 2 favourite elements of Chili's by a long, 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 long way. And I just think, I prefer John Frusciante's voice to Anthony Kiedis' voice. I think he's I don't think he's an incredible vocalist, but compared to Anthony, I think most people compared to Anthony Kiedis would sound good. But I actually do think he's a better vocalist than Anthony Kiedis. And
definitely technically, yeah.
Okay. He is undeniably one of those guitarists who does have a signature sound. But most guitarists who have a signature sound sound through being very showy in some sense, say. Or, oh God, just you can name fucking loads.
Tom Morello,
there we go. I mean, well, actually, I don't know if Tom Morello's a great example because he's not, even he isn't showy.
Got a signature sound, hasn't he?
He definitely has a signature sound.
When he pulls his thing out and goes, whoop, 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 you tell me that's not showy? Come on.
Not in a traditional technical sense.
Right, yeah.
But, Van Halen, fine. Van Halen has tap and bloody blah, blah, blah. Whereas John Frusciante, I mean, most Frusciante stuff is relatively easy to play. I mean, there are bits which are deceptively difficult, I would say. But it certainly sounds like... It struck
me as someone who writes quite simple sounding stuff, I have to say. It's odd that you say... It's funny you say that because... I've never thought that.
I think if you go to Californication and By the Way and stuff like that, I mean...
I tend not to do
that.
Yeah,
of course you don't. But, I mean, he definitely... Blood Sugar Sex Magic is one of those records where it sounds deceptively simple. There's a lot of... buskers who will play a version of Under the Bridge, but very few people can play it like John Frusciante.
Again, I've never listened to the that doesn't sound that easy to me. I mean, I don't play the guitar, so I don't really know. But I never listened to even Blood Sugar Sex Magic and go. Even those bits, anything that feels that picked, I'm always like, well, that must be quite a hard riff to play because he's not really strumming.
It's just arpeggiated. It's just arpeggiated chords.
Oh yeah, wow, God, there he is, fucking Geddy Lee over there. Hendrix reincarnate.
It's just It's just arpeggiated chords, but in Frusciante's hands, it isn't. It's actually a lot more than that because there's lots of little trills and fills and cheeky bits. That'll do. Technical term, which make it very Frusciante-esque. And the majority of people who have a signature sound, as I say, do that through technical brilliance. Yeah. And Frusciante is a very technically gifted player, but he's very rarely showy.
I apologise for bringing up Geddy Lee when talking about...
He's the bassist,
because he's the bass player, and I knew that, but it's because we were talking about him earlier. I just didn't want people tweeting me going, Geddy Lee's a bass... Anyway.
I'm going to tweet you anyway.
He is. He's certainly an interesting guitarist, John Frusciante.
And, compared to David Navarro, just to bring that comparison with the Chili's and stuff, David Navarro, a phenomenal guitarist as well, but definitely in a showy sense.
Oh, yeah.
Like
LA as fuck, David Navarro.
Yeah.
As fuck.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he's good. Remfry, this album is... It's not good, mate. And it's not because it's John Frusciante and I don't like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is that it's... I found this to be exactly what I expected a kind of esoteric big name musician solo material to be, which is very, very self-indulgent indeed.
I absolutely admit there are parts of this record which are incredibly self-indulgent and do not need to be on it.
Yeah.
There are a lot of quite Mars Volta-esque weird wibbly wobbly instrumentals which are not needed.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, there were a few bits where I was like, okay, now this is good. This is kind of, more melodic, well, not even more melodic, but kind of melodic-y era Pearl Jam-y bits that I thought like, oh, this is getting somewhere now. And then he'd ruin it by just going like, for fucking 6 minutes. And you're like, mate, I don't have 62 minutes and 23 seconds to waste on you and your fucking whims and your flights of fancy. And it was, it's like do you remember when like Prince used to release an album every other week, didn't he, for God knows how long?
He did for a while. Yeah.
And some of them would be good, and then some of them would
wank to all of them.
Would be That's why he's so tired.
That was a really tough week.
Yeah, and some of them would just be kind of long. Like, oh, I need to release something. I better just release this, whatever. And I don't feel like this is just like wanged out.
Not this one. No,
with no thought put into it whatsoever.
Some of his records sound like they are.
I bet they fucking do. But I do feel like this is someone who has just gone, everything I've got goes on the record. Everything.
Yeah, I do think he suffers from that a little bit.
Yeah, like every idea goes on the record.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he hasn't thought about it that much or he's not really tried that hard, but it is, it's, and I guess if you were in the Red Hot Chili Peppers in 2004 and you're having to go on stage and do the things you had to do, then it would probably drive you mad and you would probably need some sort of like massive purge of all your ideas.
Well, this was actually recorded during the By the Way sessions.
Yeah.
So he was sort of doing this, on the side kind of thing.
I'm going to say something which I didn't think I'd be saying. I think this is worse than By the Way. And I think By the Way is absolutely atrocious record.
I think this is worse than By the Way as well, but I really like By the Way. So, although it has fucking awful moments on it, like every Chili Peppers album, the Zephyr song, more like the fuck off song.
Oh, that was a single as well.
I know that is mind blowing that the Zephyr song was a single, but there you go. Warner Brothers, eh? Probably not Warner Brothers' fault, to be fair. I kind of just wanted to give you this record because I think it's an interesting, how when Serge Tankian released Elect the Dead and Scars on Broadway released their self-titled debut record about 6 months apart from one another, you could kind of hear, okay, that's what Darren brings to System of a Down, and that's what Serge brings to System of a Down. And when they come together, they create System of a Down, and it's awesome. I feel like you can hear what Frusciante brings to Red Hot Chili Peppers by listening to his solo stuff. And the stuff that he brings to that band are all the things that I like. And then I feel like other elements come in and ruin it as a bit over the top, but make it not as good. I don't think this album is amazing, and I don't think anyone could honestly, hand on heart, go, there isn't any filler on this. I mean, they would be insane if they did.
Filler? Fuck me. Like, this is one slice of bread and then just all the coronation chicken. It's all filler.
I do actually.
This is a breadless sandwich, this.
And annoyingly as well, sometimes songs that I really like are not spoilt, but for some reason there'll be a minute of like at the beginning. Carvel, I think the first song is, I really like that song. It doesn't need 2 minutes of wibbly wobbly at the beginning of it.
It's 6 minutes and 15 seconds long.
Yeah.
You're right, because I put it on, I was like, oh yeah, okay, fine. And then I was like, fucking, you gotta go, mate. This song has got to. And I was like, this is the first track, and I'm already like, how long is this record?
Yeah.
In the first track, how long is this record? I mean, I am not. I respect the kind of the fact that John Frusciante. I like the fact that John Frusciante exists.
Do you agree that you listen to him even as someone who?
Oh yeah, this absolutely sounds like the dude from Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah, like I like the fact that someone like John Frusciante exists. John Frusciante is a nomad. You know, he's obviously doing whatever he wants to do. He doesn't really care about getting up on stage in front of 80,000 people and, you know, wiggling his bum or whatever like Anthony Kiedis does. That's not why he's in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I do believe that.
That's why he leaves them all the time.
Yeah,
I think he has that push pull within himself. Well, I mean, I say that like I know him, but
I think it's interesting to have artists in this world who are just doing it purely for the thing that moves them inside their soul. I think that's great. I think, unfortunately, in the case of John Frusciante, while he is obviously a very talented guitar player and has obviously developed a signature sound of his own, I don't think he is a skilled songwriter.
You're probably you're right.
I mean, he's not showy. You're right. He's not showy, and he does do things that are kind of oddly difficult and interesting because of it.
Yeah.
Because of managing to get something which seems so odd, sounds so simple, or kind of, you know, for a band as big as the Red Hot Chili Peppers to have some of these weird John Frusciante-isms crowbarred into their, not even crowbarred, but kind of melded into their material. Yeah, you're right. That's really cool. But it, you know, it doesn't save all the other, you know, Anthony Kiedis going, dig about the bay, but don't be California, but don't be California. Can't save it from that, and unfortunately, it can't save this record from being a bloated mess of pure ego.
I would definitely say, I mean, I'm a little bit kinder to it. I undoubtedly think this record should be 20 minutes shorter. But I think there's 40 odd minutes of good stuff on here that I actually really like.
I think the first track could be 40 minutes shorter.
The other thing I'm going to say just very quickly is this album is generally considered John Frusciante's most accessible. But isn't that interesting?
It's very interesting.
Isn't that interesting from the point of view, and I think it ties into everything that you have just said about him being a nomad and about him being, you know, just doing about him just doing whatever the fuck he wants to do. Because John Frusciante is in one of the biggest rock bands of all time, whether we like that fact or not, and I don't think either of us particularly like it, but it is true. And this is, I think this is an odd album by
very odd album.
most people's standards, and the general perception that this is his easiest to get into. I've not listened to all of Frusciante's solo albums because I've got a life to live, but it's definitely the most coherent and kind of quote unquote commercial that I've heard.
Wow.
Undoubtedly.
But man, good for him.
Yeah, good for him, man.
Like, good for him. He's got a platform to be able to do that, and people who like that, the Red Hot Chili Peppers and like him as a person, I'm sure will lap it up. But mate, it was hard work. I'm not gonna lie.
I wasn't expecting you to like it. But it's fine.
No.
I mean, I don't love it, but when it's good, I really like it. So.
When I first put it on and it got past that first track, I was like, "Fucking old Renfrew, what the fuck? Why are you doing this?"
Well, I mean, you've never given me a record where I felt that way, so
Yeah, at least mine are like fucking poppy and stupid. And there's nothing funny about this.
Clawfinger's not. Well, Clawfinger's funny.
Clawfinger was hilarious. Collapse Song hilarious, right? Catch was hilarious. You could at least have gone, "Wow, this is stupid." Like this, it's not even funny.
Right. Well, okay, yeah. Well, I have a choice for you, which I think. Will it be funny? I don't know. I don't know if you would have heard this. It's really going to bug me.
Go on.
This is for next week, by the way. I didn't do a very good link there. Have you ever listened in full to Meatloaf's "Bat Out of Hell 2 Back to Hell"?
What? No. Is that the one with "Do Everything for Love" on it?
I would do anything for love.
Weirdly,
13-minute song. 13-minute song. That song.
No, I haven't.
If you think this is long, that album
the
is.
last podcast I did, I got fucking "Bat Out of Hell," and I was like, "Oh, now I'm doing "Bat Out of Hell 2."
I'm giving you this because it is the first album I ever purchased.
Okay, cool.
As a 10-year-old.
Right back at you, mate.
Okay.
I am giving you "Streets in the Sky" by The Enemy from 2012. Do you know anything about that record?
Not specifically the record. I mean, I know about The Enemy. I know I'm not going to like it.
I'm going to give you one fact about this record, or maybe I should save it for next week. On Metacritic, it is ranked on Metacritic as the 4th worst album ever made. So, next week.
Do you know what 1, 2, and 3 are out of interest?
I don't know, I'm afraid.
We'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. So, anyway, The Enemy. I think the Duran Duran album that I was going to give you might be one of them.
Oh, fuck. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Interesting.
And when we get around to doing that, holy fuck. Hashtag cancelled Duran Duran.
And Steve is a Duran Duran fan.
I love Duran Duran, but hashtag cancelled. Anyway, The Enemy, Streets in the Sky, and Meatloaf's "Bat Out of Hell 2. What a fucking stupid show it's going to be next week. Bearing in mind, we're also going to be reviewing new albums from Caspian, your favourite of the decade, and obviously, what would you put with Caspian? The Pet Shop Boys, surely.
I don't know, should we promise that? Because
I can't. God, I want it so badly.
Well, Pet Shop Boys is out next week, and we're going to try and review.
We're going to try and review Pet Shop Boys next week, amongst others, a few more. Go over to musicism.net. Put Riot in put Riot in capitals in the checkout to get 25% off all courses. We will see you next week, and it should be pretty interesting.
Absolutely.